And our next firewall will be the SRX. Let me start this up while I explain you the default behavior, because it usually takes a lot of time to start up. Let me take the console as well. And we already have the router up. All right. So guys, our topology, what it is going to look like for this particular lab is something like this. As the SRX firewall is also a zone-based firewall, this is going to be the inside zone, and this is going to be an outside zone. The topology is this. So by default, we have got this as trust zone. It's already been configured on the SRX, and outside is termed as untrust. So it's all the same, just the terminology is different. So anything going from trust to untrust will be statefully inspected, as in the return traffic will be allowed, and any new session coming from untrust to trust will be blocked. It will have to pass through the policies, right? And we also have the policies configured for the trust and the untrust zone. We've got two policies by default, which says that from trust to untrust, all the traffic will be allowed, and an intrazone policy, which says that any two interfaces which are in a single zone, say for example trust, if these two are in the same zone, the communication between the two will be allowed. Same goes for untrust, or basically two policies. One is for intrazone, other is for interzone, and both of them allow the traffic by default. In Palo Alto, we had seen that by default interzone was denying the traffic, but here in SRX interzone policy, which is the default one, it allows the traffic between two different zones, typically from trust to untrust, not from untrust to trust. So, and okay, all we have to do is we have to define which interface is part of which zone. So here in our topology, 0/1 gets to be the part of the trust zone, and 0/0 will be the part of untrust zone. So let's go ahead and configure this. Let me see if the firewall is up. This is my router. Let me drag it here. The PC is up. Okay, the firewall is still booting. I'm gonna pause it for a while to boot it up. All right, we are at the login prompt. So by default, the login name would be root, and this username would take me to a Linux kind of a prompt, which will start with root and the percentage sign. From there, we will have to enter in the CLI mode using the CLI command. So it usually takes time for the first time. Okay, this was quick for us. I'll enter CLI, and this will take me to the more familiar kind of a prompt. There you go. So SRX is like routers only, guys. The command prompt and everything, the hierarchy, it's all the same. And SRX can behave as a router as well as a firewall. So there are two modes in it basically. One is the flow based, which is the firewall mode, and the second is packet based, which is the router mode. So right now the firewall is supposed to be in flow based mode. We can check that with commands. Let me show you. and the command is show security flow sessions and a status. Show security flow status, and here what you can see is the inet forwarding mode is flow based. So if you change this to packet based, the device is going to act as a router instead of a firewall. So let's keep it that way. Let's keep it flow based, and you have to make sure that this is flow based. Right now we are running version 15.x, but earlier versions which was 12 and prior to that it was the default mode in which the device boots up is the packet based. So we need to change that. Right now we are using the latest one, so this is flow based. So let's configure this. The devices in the topology are these. This is having 192.168.1.1. 0/1 is supposed to have .253 and it is supposed to be part of the trust zone. So let's go ahead and configure that. And if you want to have a look at the interfaces, show interface ters is the command equivalent to show IP interface brief in Cisco. So I go to configure mode and I configure the zone first. I mean the zones are already configured. Let me show you that. Show security zones. So we already have the trust and the untrust zone here, but we do not see any interface being configured in these. So let me go ahead and configure the interfaces. Let's make 0/0/1 part of trust zone. For that, the command would be, and one more thing, we are using CLI in this because as per industry standards, SRX is recommended to have, it's not recommended, it's sort of an unsaid rule that CLI seems to be better for SRX as compared to its GUI. It's not that the GUI is not available for SRX, it is available like it was for Palo Alto, but it is not that stable. My personal experiences have not been very good with the GUI. Similar is the case for Cisco ASA. For these, we use CLI. Okay, let's continue configuring this. Security zone and name of the zone is trust, and the interface which is going to be part of this will be this as per our topology. And now I can configure this interface 0/1.0 family inet. It's more or less same as we do on routers. Set interface name, family inet, address 192.168.1.253/24. Similarly, I can assign untrust zone to interface 0/0.0, and I can give this interface an IP address of 12.0.0.3/24. And not to forget, we need to commit, and by default I do get an error that missing mandatory statement root authentication. So what we are supposed to do here is we are supposed to give a root authentication password. So I'm gonna give set a system root authentication password, a plain text password or an encrypted one. So I'm gonna give a plain text password here, and now you can commit. And we're supposed to get a successful commit message here. There it is. And let's look at the policies now. Show security policies. So what do we see? We see two policies here: from trust to zone trust, which is within the same zone, within from trust to trust. Policy default permit match this, match source address to be any, destination can be any, application or service can be any, and then it is going to permit that. You can look at the second policy here, from zone, which means coming from trust going to untrust, the traffic is a permit here. And this is the hierarchical representation. If you don't like this, you can do a display set here, which will display information or the configuration in more like a Cisco manner, a one-line configuration. So these are the default policies which are already there. So right now, let me verify. Oops, let me verify the routing on the router. Okay, it looks like we do have a static route configured here. 192.168.1.1 is part is reachable through 12.003 in the routing table here. And we have also configured the interface 12.002, no rocket science in that. I can also verify. Here is the script which says that okay, 192.168.1.1 and the gateway is 1.254. So I'm going to change this. Maybe it is 1.253 only. The script is showing me wrong, but still let's verify. Yeah, there you go. It is 1.253. So I can try pinging now. I can ping 12.0.0.2 and there you go. I can ping from the trust zone to untrust zone. Now the reverse can be tried. I can try pinging 192.168.1.1, which is not allowed. So clearly the firewall is dropping the traffic as per its policies. We do not have any policies that allow traffic from untrust to trust. So the PC could reach the router, but the router could not reach the PC. So that's all about the default behavior, guys, of the SRX. And yeah, there's one more thing. You can try pinging 192.168.1.253 and you will not be able to ping. So it's same like the Palo Alto. You cannot have the traffic directly coming to the interfaces of the firewall. You will need to specifically allow that what sort of traffic is allowed for the firewall. So for that, what you can do is while assigning set a security zone trust interface 0/1, I believe. Yeah, yes, it's 1. and there is the option host inbound traffic. So host inbound traffic, there is a lot of options to choose from, protocols and system services. So you can do system services, and there are a lot of services that can be chosen from. So for us, we can choose a ping, and I can do a commit, and by the time it's commit, let's check again. See, now you can ping it through, or ping the interface of the firewall. So host inbound traffic was the thing that was supposed to be allowed. All right, so that's all for SRX. This was the default behavior. Now let's look at our next firewall, which is going to be checkpoint.